Welcome to Jay's Fairway.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another installment of Jay's Fairway. I'm your host, Jay McKay. You know there's a saying in golf, drive for show and putt for dough. Have you been losing money out on the links when you play with your buddies because you can't bring in that easy 5-foot putt? A recent study out of the University of Mashhad in Iran might have the answers you need to improve your game out on the greens.
I was given the opportunity to fly over to Iran to gain some insight of this study as it was being conducted. The Sports Science Department of the Ferdowsi University of Mashhad examined the effectiveness of different methods of practice for putting. At the start of the study, 30 male novices with no prior golf experience were randomly assigned into three groups: random practice, block practice, and no practice. They performed a pre-test putting trial of 18 putts at three distances, 4, 8, and 12 feet, to gain a baseline of their abilities. In the training sessions, the practice groups were given 10 practice sessions a day with 18 putts in each session for 6 straight days. The putting distances for practices were also 4, 8, and 12 feet. The random practice golfers putted at the three distances randomly throughout each training session, while the block practice golfers only focused on one distance throughout the whole day's practice sessions and then switched to the next distance the following day. The no practice groups did not perform any practice at all. To determine the putters' performance before and during their training sessions, their accuracy relative to the target hole was measured. The groups then were given a week's rest and were retested on their accuracy for 18 putts once again to see which group had the overall better learning experience. I also got a chance to gain some insider information from one of the participants of the study.
So here we are at the Ferdowsi University in Mashhad, Iran, and I'm here with Austin McDavid, who was in the randomized practice group. Austin, how do you feel like you've progressed over the last few days?
I'm feeling pretty good about my performance this week so far. I'm not too impressed with the way I've been performing relative to the block practice group, though. I feel like they're performing much better than I am.
So now we're back here with Austin McDavid, and the retention tests have just wrapped up. Austin, how do you feel like you performed out there today?
I'm feeling really great, Jay. I performed really well relative to the block practice group. My results were on par with the end of last week, so things are looking pretty good for me right now.
So to explain the results of the study, we brought on the show John Smith, a specialist in motor learning. Hello there, Professor. Would you be able to explain the result of this research study to give us an idea of what's going on?
Yes, hello Jay. Now as you can see here, the blocked practice group improved their performance considerably throughout the skill acquisition phase, or the practice phase. However, on the retention test a week later, their performance had actually regressed considerably. This suggests that the training technique of block practice temporarily improves your performance, but doesn't actually promote true learning. Now, the randomized training group didn't improve as fast as the block practice group did during the skill acquisition phase, but on the retention test, they performed almost exactly the same as they did on their last day of practice. This shows that this technique of practicing is indicative of more positive long-term learning by the athletes. This increase in long-term learning can be explained using a couple of concepts. Now, the first concept is contextual interference, which is a memory or performance disruption that is the result of performing variations of a skill. For example, putting from three different distances at random. Now, there are two hypotheses to explain how contextual interference promotes learning. The elaboration hypothesis, which states that performing the randomized trials promotes stronger memory representations of the skill. The second is the forgetting hypothesis, which states that you forget the planning required to perform the tasks between the trials, therefore creating stronger memory representations of the motor skill. Now, the second concept I'd like to talk about is actually just making errors and learning from them. So as the golfer putts from distances that are randomly selected, they must alter the muscle activation required to perform the skill, given the distance and the accuracy required. This variability in the required force and accuracy causes the athlete to make more mistakes. And this slight increase in errors gives the athlete an opportunity to actually learn from their mistakes through self-discovery, ultimately improving their performance long-term. Now, the block practice group didn't even have the opportunity to learn from their mistakes because they weren't making them in the skill acquisition phase. So this is something that we can definitely look at long-term.
All right, thank you, Professor. That was very informative, and I feel like I've learned a lot today. Well, there you have it, folks. For those of you who've been losing those weekend warrior games to your friends, it's time to turn the tables. Try some randomized practice when you hit the practice green, and maybe you'll be sending your friends home with empty pockets.